I used to believe that blood meant loyalty, that family, no matter how messy, chaotic, or broken, was supposed to stick. But I learned the hard way that sometimes blood can drown you faster than any stranger ever could. My sister Lila and I were raised in a house that looked perfect from the outside. To parents, smiles for the neighbors, Christmas cards with coordinated outfits, but the cracks had been forming for years. My father's temper, my mother's cold silence. They stayed together longer than they should have, only to fall apart in spectacular fashion when we were teenagers. The divorce wasn't the worst part. The aftermath was, my father moved in with a woman he'd been seeing long before the separation papers were filed. Denise, she was sharp-tongued and glittery, in a way that made you feel dull just by standing next to her. My mother, she found someone younger. Patrick, a man who once flirted with me when she wasn't looking. I never told her. What would be the point? At first, I tried to keep the peace. Lila did too. We went to family dinners, tried to smile through the awkwardness, tried to ignore how their new partners constantly excluded us from conversations, how we were suddenly outsiders in our own parents' lives. But when Lila got pregnant, everything changed. She was 22, scared, still finishing university, still figuring out who she was. The father of the baby vanished faster than a dropped call. But she wanted to keep the baby, and I admired her for that. She was brave in a way I wasn't. We told our parents over dinner, hoping desperately for a sign of support. But what we got? Well, that's just irresponsible, my mother said flatly. Stabbing her salad like it personally offended her. My father barely looked up. What did you expect us to do? Raise it for you? Denise sipped her wine and laughed. Guess this. Is what happens when you don't teach your daughters about consequences. Patrick muttered something under his breath about women trapping men with babies. I remember Leela's face, her hands trembling on the table, her voice so small it barely reached across the plates. I didn't ask for help. I just thought you might care. Not really. They offered no support, no comfort, no rides to appointments. I just stepped out. Emotionally, physically, financially, so I stepped in. We moved into a tiny apartment, the two of us. I took on a second job. I watched her belly grow with a mix of wonder and fury. How could they pretend we didn't exist? How could they look in the mirror and not see what they abandoned? And came Olivia, 7 pounds, crying and pink and perfect. The day Lila gave birth, I held her hand so tightly I thought I'd leave bruises. I whispered, "You're not alone," over and over because I needed her to believe it. I needed to believe it too. The first 6 months were a blur of diapers and bottles, exhaustion and joy. Olivia smiled like she knew she was loved, like she had no idea the world had already tried to discard her. Our parents didn't visit. Not once. Birthdays passed. Holidays passed. I sent pictures out of some lingering thread of hope. No replies, no gifts, no calls, until Olivia's first birthday. They showed up. Both of them. Together. Like they hadn't missed everything. I opened the door and nearly dropped the cake in my hands. Mother dressed like she was going to a luncheon. My father, arm around Denise, holding a stuffed giraffe still in the store's plastic bag. They smiled like everything was fine. Like we were all just characters in a sitcom and last season's drama could be forgotten with a new laugh track. I heard there's a birthday girl who needs spoiling. My father grinned. I didn't move. What are you doing here? Denise pouted. Is that any way to greet your family? Family, the word stung. It was the same word I'd clung to for years, only to watch it unravel like threadbare fabric. Lila appeared behind me holding Olivia. Her eyes locked with mine and sure, guarded. We brought gifts, Patrick said, coming up behind them with a giant pink box. Thought we'd surprise you? Lila said nothing, just held Olivia closer. I guess now you care, I asked, forcing a laugh that had no joy behind it. My mother bristled. Don't be dramatic, we're here now. That sentence. That one pathetic attempt at rewriting history. I looked at Olivia, her tiny fingers gripping Lila's necklace, her curious eyes watching the strange faces, and something in me broke. You're here now, I echoed, stepping outside and closing the door behind me. After a year of silence, After you dismissed her pregnancy like it was a stain on your image? After you laughed while she cried? After you missed the birth? Her first steps? Her first words? My father's smile faltered. We've made mistakes, no, I snapped. You made choices. You chose your new lives, your new partners, your comfort. And now that she's walking and smiling and cute enough for Instagram, you want in? They stood in stunned silence. Denise rolled her eyes. Patrick checked his phone. You don't get to skip the hard parts and show up for the cake, I said, voice shaking. You don't get to pretend this year didn't happen. You just want to be part of her life, my mother said quietly. I stared at her. Then why weren't you? Silence. Lila stepped outside beside me, her voice trembling but firm. You left me alone. And now you want to act like grandparents of the year? For what? Guilt? A photo op? Patrick finally spoke. We're trying, okay? Isn't that what matters? No, I said. What matters is who shows up when it counts. And that wasn't you. They looked at each other. My mother's eyes narrowed. You can't keep her from us. She's our granddaughter, I laughed. Not kindly, not softly. I laughed like someone who'd run out of patience. You have no legal rights. No moral rights. And definitely no emotional place here. You are strangers to her, and you will stay that way. Denise stepped forward. You're being spiteful. No, I said calmly. Being protective. Lila's eyes filled with tears, but she stood tall. You don't get to walk in and out of our lives anymore. We're done. They stared at us, angry, hurt, incredulous. Like we had robbed them of something. Like we were the villains in their revisionist family fantasy. My father tried one last time. You'll regret this. I smiled. I stepped forward, inches from his face, said the words I'd rehearsed 1,000 times in the silence of sleepless nights. You don't get to rewrite this story. You chose the chapter where we didn't matter. And now we're writing the ending without you. And then I closed the door. Inside, Olivia clapped, delighted by the noise. Oblivious to the war just outside, I knelt beside her and whispered, You are so loved. Always. Lila sat beside me. We held hands. We cried. And we celebrated the kind of family you choose, the kind that shows up no matter what.